Alright, so in part 2 we're going to cover some of the other functions, but basically go a little bit more in depth into some of the things that affect how you do these layouts. Now here I'm just going to spend a little time sort of recomposing this and using the sort of same tricks. We're basically duplicating and resizing the frame around my content. I can easily sort of rearrange or recompose some of the stuff, let's say around this sort of diagram and around, let's say, in this case, I'm not necessarily sure if I want those pictures, and if there's a couple that I really don't like, or I don't want them, then I can just sort of edit them out or take them out that way. So I can turn this 90 degrees, and maybe we'll actually just fit this up here. And you'll see that it's actually easy to kind of recompose things. Like that, right? So things actually begin to sort of line up a little better. So here I'm thinking this series of photos might actually be better served if I split them into 3 in like one line horizontally. So I'll just sort of duplicate these guys. And these sizes might not match up, right? So you can basically sort of try to resize them so they're all the same height, whatever. But then you can just use the nudge tool to try to align the image content if you know that they are the same size. Right, and then group them. So this is one bar now, and Control Shift drag to sort of resize them, and okay, so that's one horizontal sort of bar that's down the bottom. And then I can make this a little bit larger to kind of fill the frame. Okay, text boxes. So we made, in this case, we made a separate sort of layer for the text. And in the text there's this one text box. You can actually, really easily just the same way we did in the other programs or Illustrator. You can select an object and come here to like basically switch it to a different layer like that. So then this goes onto the text layer and vice versa. So I drag and drop it over. You have to have it selected and then drag and drop it over, right? But let's just keep things consistent for now. So let's say I'm happy with that and don't want to accidentally touch anything now, then you can just lock the layer, right? So you don't accidentally move stuff, and then just make the active layer the text layer. So the text layer, this is using the text tool. You can basically make text boxes, and then you can fill it with other. This is a desert project, so design for desert. Just so we have something like a title, and then you can double click in it, and this is this is what you're used to in terms of the fonts that you have. So pick a font. The sort of basic standout is Arial, and you can make it larger here, changing the size. So let's make some large text. Now you'll see that this basically sort of resizes itself, right? So I can sort of arrange it, double click to edit it again, and say, okay, maybe that's too small. Let's do 72 point text, and just sort of resize the text box, to kind of get a better sense of what it looks like. Now this text, this fill text, you have the same sort of formatting options that you see when you in Word. You can center it, you can force justify. Usually I suggest that you force justify it because if you're looking at a sort of mass of text like this, and I'm going to delete some, like this, and if I change to, let's say, the preview mode, right, and you zoom out, you'll get this sort of really jagged side of the text, which just doesn't look good as a graphical element, right? And so that's why in these cases I tend to get the text and force justify it so that the sides of these are aligned, and when you adjust it, they basically sort of reposition based off of that sort of side text, right? It's a lot more graphically clean. But there's a lot of other things you can do here. You can play around with these. Let's change this to Arial as well. Right, you have the regular, you have the italics, the bolds, etc., etc. So this is basically more or less the same as Word or anything similar. You might run into situations where like this, as the width of the text is actually too large. It's like your sentences might run really long. So what you can do is actually, let's say, create 2 columns. So I'm going to make another text box here. Just switch my view back to just another text box. And you'll see that when you have text that overflows, right, it's going beyond the boundaries of a text box, like in this case. So I can keep on going downwards, right, and that's the end of your text. But if the text doesn't fit within the text box, you'll get this little plus sign here at the bottom. And what that allows you is to actually link this text into another empty text box. So if I click on the little plus sign and then click on an empty text box, then that text will actually overflow into this box. And then what you can do is basically, let's say in this case, I'll just sort of try to align it roughly, make it so these are, so you'll see that, and actually Illustrator is dynamically adjusting these columns, if you will, so they are the same width. And so you'll see that based off of like how small or how large this first text box is, it will basically overflow into the next one. So this is actually really helpful in terms of helping me organize my text to graphically fit certain sort of standards. Okay. And you can have different size text within the same box. So if I wanted to name scissor, I don't know. Whatever, you can just highlight it, and change it to something larger, etc., etc. It'll still work within the same text box. All right, so that's just some of the fundamentals, and I'm going to spend a little time just sort of talking about some of the specifics that really come with managing something like that. So as you saw earlier in the view, I can change the screen mode to normal preview. Usually this is just what you need, just to kind of get a sense. The presentation mode, which is Shift W, just sort of blanks everything out so you can look at it as a layout and sort of sit back, right, see where the weighting of your sort of images are and how they're working together. Click escape to sort of get out of it. So that's the screen mode and the presentation mode. It's just good to kind of check like visually, you know, how are these sort of gaps in between's working, and this is looking like one element, how are things aligning, maybe the sort of title text is actually a little bit too large, right? So you can really easily sort of adjust that like that. And it's too high. You know, basically it allows you to kind of more visually and intuitively manage things. Okay. So besides that, and let me unlock that. Besides that, there's a lot of functions here, and in this video we won't really be able to go through all of it, but some of the stuff really is, you know, organization and stuff like lock, Control L, which basically allows you to lock an element temporarily in place, so you don't, like I'm trying to drag click it, just won't move. To unlock it, then you just have to click on that sort of little lock icon to unlock it, and then it'll move again, right? So just these sort of smaller things. But what I really want to spend a little time talking about is the linking system. So if I go to the links palette here, you'll see basically every single image that I've inserted is referenced here somewhere, with the name, what format it is. So like this one is a PDF, so it says Photoshop, color space, RGB, the status. OK basically tells you, you know, Illustrator can find it, or InDesign can find it. What's the actual PPI, effective PPI, etc., etc. And this is important because this is where you kind of manage all of your links. First off, in the sense that you can see, because some of this rendering, I've stretched it so it's very large, right? And it's originally was, when it's inserted, it was 150 DPI or PPI image. And because I stretch it, it's gone down to 104 at this sort of size. So when I print it, it actually might come out a tiny bit pixelated, right? So this lets you know, which of your images are high enough for print sort of resolution. And this is important to kind of look at as you're sort of resizing or stretching these images. So that image and maybe this image might actually print out a little bit more pixelated because of how much I've sized them up. So that's just sort of so you know. So when you click on it, it will tell you which of these links it is and its current status. All right. Now, another reason we use this sort of system is then, for example, for the PSD file, if I'm sort of unhappy with, okay, it's I don't know, it's too blue or it's not bright enough, etc. If I need to make any adjustments to it, I can right-click on it, go to Edit Original or Edit With, and open it in, let's say, Photoshop. So this brings me to the original file, and let's say I'll just sort of play with the hue and saturation a little bit, and let's make it, ooh, okay, something like that, and desaturate that layer, and take the original background layer, I'm just sort of messing around with this. Okay, and then save it. Control S, save, and close it. Right now, when I switch back to my InDesign file, it automatically updates the saves that the changes I made. All right, so it's a linked file system. that allows you to edit on the fly, go back and forth between the three programs, or the three musketeers of Adobe: Illustrator, Photoshop, InDesign. All right, so that's the linking system. Now, because of that, these files are saved independently. They're not saved with your InDesign file. That's really, really important for you to realize, that they're not saved with the InDesign file. Your InDesign file, and I haven't saved this yet, so let's save this. Save. And desktop, InDesign examples. Let's just call it poster layout. All right, so this InDesign file, if you sort of look at it, it's really not that big. It's only 2.6 megabytes, right? So all your images are not saved with your InDesign file. They're saved here, and the InDesign file is just sort of like a directory, an address directory of sorts, just saying, okay, these images are arranged in these positions and these sizes, right? So, one of the things we often do, and I told you guys that when you're inserting links, you can drag them from different folders. You can basically insert images from all over the place and not worry about it, right? But let's say you're sort of near the end of this, and you're saying, well, I just saved my InDesign file, and I'm ready actually to kind of keep this and make sure things will work in the future, right? So there is a process called packaging, which is usually one of the last steps that you do. If you're happy with this, then I can go to File and Package. And when you package it, so package, and just sort of continue this, blah, blah, whatever, desktop. So it'll make a new folder here called poster layout folder, right? It just uses whatever name and adds folder to the end of it, right? And it'll copy your link graphics, it'll copy fonts if you had been using any sort of custom fonts or in your layouts. So I'll put it on my desktop here. So I'll package it, it'll run, and if you have this sort of background tasks thing, it'll run really quickly. So now I have a new folder on my desktop called the poster layout folder, which is what we just saw earlier. And in it, you'll have links. And these are basically all the things that are in the layout, everything, right? It doesn't have the hierarchy, but it basically makes a duplicate, it makes a copy of all this stuff in the sort of links folder. If there are any fonts, it comes here too. At this point, then you have things, all of your content is duplicated and put in this links folder. Okay, so when you package your file, it creates a folder with the sort of name of your file and adds folder to behind it. And so it creates a folder with an InDesign file, that's your layout, and any fonts that came with it. So you'll see Arial in there, and any links that come with it. And to kind of show you how the links work, I'm actually just going to take that big rendering and move it to my desktop. So it's not there anymore. And then I'm going to open that sort of poster layout that we had earlier. It's 3 megabytes. So when we moved it, in this case, because it currently actually will sort of try to follow where your files are. So you'll see that the link actually follows it. Users, desktop, Arial 2. It kind of knows that when you're moving some files around. But what happens, let's say if I go to my desktop, and you guys probably can't see this. It's on my desktop on the other side. So if I take this and let's say I delete it, then here, because it's been sort of trying to update the links all the time, right? You'll see that there's a question mark, and InDesign can't find it anymore, right? And so what happens is that when you try to export this, this will actually be a very pixelated preview that InDesign saved. It's not going to be the actual file itself, right? And so to kind of fix that, I'm just going to go to my recycling bin and restore it. And you'll see that this actually updates automatically. But sometimes you might find, and this is where you do it, you might find that you will need to relink things. If you know where these images are that you've lost, if the links have been lost, then you can relink it by coming over here and clicking on the relink. This is the sort of go-to link. Yeah, so this is the main thing that you might have to do sometimes if your folders changed. So let's say if I rename this whole folder, then everything gets lost, right? Because all of these links that were originally expected to be in the links folder now are not in the folder called links. They're in the folder called links 2 now. So all of these, everything gets lost. I'm going to actually put the Photoshop image back in here as well. So we move stuff around and you need to relink it, then you just click here, come to the folder. It's actually a good idea to figure out which one of these you're actually linking. So this is the aerial grass 2, right? So if you're relinking, do that. And so you'll see that InDesign does this. It searches the sort of folder that you gave it, and it will find and relink anything that was missing. So everything is back to normal again. Okay? So that's just like something to keep in mind in terms of how the layers and links work. All right, so that's it for this video, and we'll cover a little bit of the exporting options in the next one.